far as you're concerned, we ignore the 400,000 dead and the 6 million refugees. That's caused by Bashar Assad.
It's going to make clear that we're going to continue to provide the air support we need for our coalition forces and our partnered operations to make sure that they are as safe as possible in Syria.
Not a no-fly zone?
It's not a no-fly zone. But I would just, again, reiterate what you heard from Captain Davis last week and what you'll hear from me again, that the Syrian regime would be wise to avoid areas where coalition forces have been operating. And we will continue to defend them, and if need be, we will send aircraft again to defend our forces.
So if you were telling them no fly in those areas, is there any way you can explain to us why that is not a no-fly zone?
You can label it what you want, Barbara. I'm explaining to you what we're doing with regard to defending our forces, coalition forces on the ground, our partnered operations there.
Is it a no-fly zone?
It remains the same warning that we've had in effect since we started our operations in Syria. We're going to defend our people on the ground and do what we need to protect.
Chairman, we don't have any intention of having an intelligence sharing arrangement with the Russians.
That is part of Secretary Kerry's proposal, that we set up an intelligence sharing operation in Syria with the Russians.
Chairman, the U.S. military role will not include intelligence sharing with the Russians.
The objective was to limit their combat operations in such a way that they could not hit opposition targets or civilian targets. Now, I don't know what you mean by safe zone.
The area where it's held by the opposition, which
or
you say
includes
marble.
That is correct. They would not be able to strike in areas where we know the opposition is dominant or opposition controlled, or because they're not capable of being discreet and discriminate about that.
Who were tragically killed in a U.S. counterterrorism operation. Warren and Giovanni were aid workers in Pakistan.
Because he's not capable of discreet, discriminate targeting.
U.S. warplanes targeted a military airport near the eastern city of Deir al-Zor, killing scores of Syrian soldiers and injuring over 100 more.
But we have been able to confirm that earlier today, the United States struck what we believe to be an ISIL target. We halted the attack when we were informed by Russia that it was possible that we were striking Syrian regime military personnel and vehicles. If we determined that we did indeed strike Syrian military personnel, that was not our intention. And we, of course, regret the loss of life. This said,
I'm asking, is our military strategy succeeding in Syria?
Our military strategy is focused on a counter-ISIL campaign. In my judgment, we are succeeding in that campaign.
The U.S. Defense Department has admitted to striking the Syrian military positions, but said it was unintentional. And the U.S. envoy to the United Nations has said Washington regrets the loss of life.
I've stood up to Russia. I've taken on Putin and others. And I would do that as president.
A no-fly zone to stop the barrel bombing. And I asked this colleague of mine on the other side of the aisle if he would support that. And he said, yes. He said, I want to call it something else. What about the option of controlling the airspace so that barrel bombs cannot be dropped?
All the options.
What do you think of that option, sir?
Right now, Senator, for us to control all of the airspace in Syria would require us to go to war against Syria and Russia. That's a pretty fundamental decision that certainly I'm not going to make.
And I advocate today a no-fly zone and safe zones.
What Senator asked me was to control all of the airspace.
No, what he asked was, should we have a no-fly zone so we can protect these people from being slaughtered? That's what he's talking about.
I answered that first.
That's what we're all talking about.
Nobody's talking about having Saudi Arabia as sort of a lone single custodian of the future of Syria. We want the future of Syria to be determined by Syrians. Nobody's talking about ceding American leadership here.
Russia is invited in by the legitimate regime. Well, it's illegitimate in our mind, but by the regime.
Look, I get it.
A lot of us wish there was an enforcement mechanism right now. A lot of us have been fighting for one.